And welcome on into Spin on Sports. I'm your host, Mitch Spinell. We are coming to you from Tusco TV Studios here in Tuscarawas County. We have an exciting show for you with a lot to talk about in the sports world, high school and beyond. We are getting into the deepest part of the high school football season, the regular season, in fact, as the playoffs are starting soon in this shortened year. And we had a lot of great games this past week that I want to talk about, starting with senior night at New Philadelphia, in which the Quakers took on West Holmes. And one of them, the classic rivalry, the 117th matchup between Dover and New Philadelphia High School, which happened this past Friday. Let's start with the Dover Tornadoes. They had a game earlier this week against Steubenville, a team that they played back in September, and the Big Red won that game 28-7. The Braves were exposed to a positive COVID-19 test in their previous game against Indian Creek High School, which happened this past week. Now, Indian Valley was forced to forfeit from the postseason, and Bloom Carroll will move on to play Carrollton in the next round of the playoffs coming this Friday. Now, we had more scores to talk about from this past week. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. We had Ridgewood beating Indian Valley 34-7, continuing their undefeated season so far. Gabe Tingle with 3 total touchdowns, Keegan Melender with a rushing score, and Sam Carter had the lone touchdown for the Braves in the air. We also had week 2 of the NFL season, an eventful one, including the first Cleveland Browns win on the season. Let's look at that, including some other scores. The Cleveland Browns finally getting back to good stuff. 35-30 was the final over Cincinnati this week. Now, there is no direct word currently on who or if the Braves will play any more games this season. However, according to Arbiter Live, their next scheduled game comes in Week 10 against John Glenn on the eve of Halloween. And there was an announcement that was made this past week by the OHSAA that said they would be making some cuts due to financial restraints caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, we also have a lot more sports to get to on the professional side. Let's take a look here at some of the Major League playoff matchups. Now, of course, the Indians last week were eliminated by the New York Yankees, who will now take on the Tampa Bay Rays. And that is all the time we have here on Spin on Sports. When we return next week, we'll be recapping some of these state playoff matchups and whatever happens this week in high school sports and beyond. I'm Mitch Spinell. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week. Now, New Philly looking for their first win since 2017. Early on in the first quarter, Logan Hart cutting up the sideline and going in for the touchdown, making it 7-0 New Philadelphia. And they would not stop there. Later on, Dover getting the football, and Aiden Hall from around the 35-yard line, giving it to Nathan Ravine, who is back for the Tornadoes this game after missing the last 2 weeks with an injury. He gets it down to about the 40. Now, the Tornadoes would get deep into Quaker territory and would go for a 17-yard field goal, which was no good, wide right, and the Crimson Tornadoes losing the opportunity on the score. And then later on in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, Caden O'Neill over to Caden Richmond for the touchdown. Caden O'Neill only completed 4 passes on the game, and all of them went to Richmond, and that makes it 14-0. And then Ort getting into the end zone, bulldozing his way in, 21-0, black and red, and it looked like the game would just end there. But in the fourth quarter, the Tornadoes would storm back. A reverse play here gives it to Hall in the end zone, the quarterback with his first receiving touchdown of the year, making it 21-6. They would miss the point after, but later on, with about 4.5 to go, Jacob Hostetler making it 21-13. And on New Philly's next drive on 3rd and 7, Ort would get stopped at around the 30-yard line, which means the Quakers would go for a field goal from around 42 yards. And it's Elliott Warner going for the field goal, and it's no good. So the Tornadoes would get the ball back with less than a minute to go. And on this play here, here's Casey Claxton.
10 seconds, maybe 2 plays remaining. That's all they've got time for. Hall under pressure. Stokey's taking his head off. And down he goes. Hall is hit, and that's going to be the final play of the game. They cannot stop it.
Mitchell Stokey stifling the Tornado defense on the last play of the game, running the clock out, and the Quakers, for the first time since 2017, win the classic rivalry 21-13 over the Dover Tornadoes. Final